All right, now we're going to take a look at some of the chat permissions and being able to manage chat. So I have set this up as two side-by-side logins. This one is the moderator login and this one is the student login. So you can see that there are actually two different ways to manage permissions. One is at the room level. So you can see here that it says main room, and the student doesn't have a view of this at all. So at the main room level, I can see that there are no permissions granted for any of this. So this first one is the audio permission, and it says that it's off. The next one is the video permission, and it's also off. The chat permission is off. The whiteboard permission is off. Application sharing permission is off. And web tour permission is off. So if I grant any of these permissions at the room level, that means that anyone who is in the room has the ability to use those tools. So the thing to keep in mind with things like audio and webcam is that you can also restrict the number of people that can use these at a time. So the default is that one person can be on webcam, one person can be on microphone at a time. That can be changed. That's something that we'll talk about later. But if I grant, right now you can see that I have no options as a student to be able to push the talk button or the video button. I can't, they're grayed out. I can't click on those because I don't have those permissions. So if I decide that I want to grant those permissions, then I'm going to grant video permission, and you can see that now this is not grayed out anymore. It's black and it can actually be clicked on. As the teacher, if my video is streaming, then the students will be grayed out. So the other thing that we can do is grant audio permission, and this will allow the student to talk as long as the moderator is not speaking. If the moderator has their microphone on, then the student is grayed out and they are not able to hear or see that. Alright, now if you want to grant chat permission, right now the chat permission is off. Students are able to type in here to the moderator only. If I give permission, then it says that permission has been enabled, and now if a student types something, it will type in and everyone who's in the room can see it. If I have the chat permission turned off, then they can only send chat to the moderators. To make sure that you can view this, you want to take a quick look at your chat permissions, at your chat options here in this little drop down arrow. You can adjust the font size if you would like it to be larger or smaller. And you want to make sure that Show Supervised Messages is checked and that Show My Private Chats in Room tab is checked. Event Messages does not have to be selected, and you see that all of these things disappear, just the little people coming in, people coming out, giving, taking away permissions. So you can leave those on if you would like to track those permissions. You can turn them off. You can hide them essentially if you don't want to see them. Emoticons are these that you can see, and if you would like to turn those off, if you have students that are abusing them, then you can turn those off and students are no longer able to see those emoticons. So those can be toggled on or off as you need them. If a student types something into the chat while their chat is turned off, then it goes directly to the moderator, and this is what a private message looks like. So I know that this did not go out to the whole room because it says it's only to me. Now if I give permission the student has to click back on the Room tab. Now the whole class will see this message because I have granted permission. And you can see the difference here. Let me pop this out so that we can expand it a little bit. So you can see the difference. This allows me to see that this student is typing it and I'm the only one that sees it. It's a private message. This is something that the whole class will see. If I want to respond to the student individually, then I can click over here and this will take me to the private conversation and I can respond privately to the student. So this is a private response and the student can see it over here on their private response tab. If I want it to be a public response, I also want to point out that you can see that I'm typing because this little indicator is on next to my name. That lets me know that I am actively using that particular feature, the chat. And when I click this one, now the whole room will see it because I'm typing in the whole room tab. Alright, I'm going to reattach the panel so that we're all back in one spot. Whiteboard tools, if I grant those, then you'll see that now students have the same tools that teachers do. Whiteboard tools are granted all or none. So if they have the ability to use them, they have the ability to use them. These should be used very carefully and only once you are fully aware of and have trained your students on appropriate use of them. Application Share allows you to share your desktop. This is something that you'll see me do quite a bit in faculty meetings. And if I grant this permission, then students have the ability to share their desktop. This is not one that you will be granting permission for very often. The same will be true of Webcam and WebTour. WebTour is something that will share, basically push out and open an internet browser site for students. We'll talk more about those as an advanced feature. Alright, so the two main ones that you will need to make sure that you are comfortable with using and turning on or off is the audio, which is usually going to be left off unless students understand when and how to use it, and chat. Now chat we typically leave on unless there's a problem, and here's where individual permissions can be granted. As a teacher, you can see if I hover down here right next to the student's name, there are some options that are specific just to this student. Now I can look at those by clicking and opening that participant option menu, or if I very quickly want to block just this student's chat because maybe they're causing problems, then I can click on it and now the student's chat is turned off and I can see that while the room has been granted chat permission, this student does not have chat permission. They can only send messages to me. So this is a way that you can either grant or take away. Maybe I want to give this student whiteboard permission. Now the opposite is true. The class does not have whiteboard permission, but this student does have whiteboard permission. You can see the little emoticon there indicating that that is turned on. Managing these at the room level and at the individual student level can take some practice. So getting some people into a room, if you have children or friends that you can have sign into your classroom and actually kind of let you practice on them, is a really great way to be able to improve your skills in managing chat and in managing all of the permissions.